What would drive a woman to poison another out of suspicion and jealousy? How far would someone go when consumed by the belief that their happiness is under threat? For Sasha Dune, respected entrepreneur on the brink of marriage, that line was crossed in the most irreversible way. The target of her wrath? Camille Alvarez, her fiancé's secretary, a vibrant, driven Latina whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. What began as a suspicion grew into a calculated act of destruction, leaving Camille missing for days before the truth surfaced, a truth that no one saw coming. This is a story that begins with a love story but ends with betrayal, suspicion, and tragedy. Sasha Dune, the accomplished and admired fiancé of Marcus Hall, had every reason to look forward to her future. But beneath the surface of her seemingly idyllic life lay insecurities born from a past she couldn't escape. A past where trust had been shattered. When she looked at Camille Alvarez, she didn't see an employee. She saw a threat. What followed would tear lives apart. In this video, we'll unravel a complex narrative of love, jealousy, and unhealed wounds. We'll explore Sasha's calculated steps leading to Camille's death, Jerry Miles's relentless pursuit of justice, and the role Sasha's traumatic past played in a crime that shook everyone who knew her. This is a story that will take us from the initial disappearance to a courtroom where justice would finally catch up with the truth. This isn't just about one woman's descent into darkness. It's about the fragility of trust, the weight of assumptions, and the devastating consequences of unaddressed pain. At its core, it's a cautionary tale, a reminder of how human frailty can destroy even the strongest of relationships. Over the next few minutes, we will take you through Sasha Dune's world, uncovering her motives, the web of manipulation she spun, and the investigation that ultimately brought her to justice. It's a journey into the depths of emotion and the lengths people will go to protect what they believe is theirs. Welcome to the Crime Chronicle, where we serve you with true crime stories that keep you at the edge of your seats and wonder about the kind of evil that lurks within the hearts of men. Please like and hit the subscribe button if you're new, and to our already subscribed family members, welcome back. And, as always, let's ride into mystery together. Sasha Dune was the kind of woman people admired. A successful entrepreneur with an impeccable sense of style, she seemed to have it all: her career, her home, and the love of her life, Marcus Hall. Marcus, a financial consultant with a reputation for integrity, had proposed to Sasha after 2 years of dating. Their engagement was the culmination of a partnership that seemed strong and supportive. Friends described them as a perfect match, a couple destined for success. But appearances can often mask deeper fractures. Sasha's past was not something she shared openly, even with Marcus. 3 years earlier, on the eve of her wedding to her college sweetheart, she had been left at the altar. Her fiancé, a man she had trusted implicitly, disappeared without explanation. The humiliation and heartbreak of that day left an indelible mark on Sasha, shaping her perceptions of trust and loyalty. Though she had moved on outwardly, the scars remained, influencing how she viewed relationships and the people around her. Marcus Hall was everything Sasha's former fiancé was not: steady, reliable, and deeply committed. His work ethic and warm personality made him a respected figure in his office. It was there that he first met Camille Alvarez, a newly hired secretary who quickly became an indispensable part of the team. Camille was ambitious, sharp, and had an easy charm that endeared her to colleagues. Her presence in the office was professional, yet undeniably magnetic. For Sasha, Camille's role in Marcus's life was a growing source of unease. Sasha first met her at a company event, where Camille's vibrant personality and confident demeanor caught the attention of everyone in the room. Although Camille showed no signs of inappropriate behavior, Sasha couldn't shake the feeling that her fiancé's attractive secretary posed a threat to their relationship. Sasha began to watch Camille more closely, scrutinizing every interaction, every glance, and every laugh shared between her and Marcus. It was a chance remark from one of Marcus's colleagues that set Sasha's suspicions ablaze. During a casual dinner with Marcus and some of his coworkers, someone jokingly referred to Camille as Marcus's right-hand woman. The comment was innocent But to Sasha, it confirmed her growing fears. That night, she began obsessing over the idea that Marcus and Camille's professional relationship might be something more. Sasha's insecurities began to manifest in subtle ways. She started asking Marcus pointed questions about his day, probing for details about Camille without making her intentions obvious. Marcus, unaware of the depth of Sasha's unease, answered her questions casually, never suspecting that his fiancé's thoughts were spiraling into dangerous territory. In an attempt to get closer to her perceived rival, Sasha decided to befriend Camille. She reached out under the guise of wanting to know the people in Marcus's life better. Camille, ever polite and accommodating, welcomed the overture. The two began meeting for coffee, chatting about work and life. Camille spoke warmly of Marcus, praising his professionalism and kindness, unaware that every word she said was feeding into Sasha's growing paranoia. To those around her, Sasha appeared calm and composed, but behind closed doors, she began piecing together a plan. She would learn everything she could about Camille, her routines, her habits, her weaknesses. Sasha believed that if she could eliminate what she saw as a threat, her relationship with Marcus would be secure. Unwittingly drawn into Sasha's web was Jerry Miles, one of Marcus's closest colleagues. Jerry was a meticulous and somewhat reserved man, admired for his analytical mind and quiet dedication to his work. What few knew was that Jerry harbored a secret admiration for Camille. He was drawn to her energy and warmth, but had never expressed his feelings, content to admire her from a distance. Sasha, ever perceptive, picked up on Jerry's subtle interest in Camille. She began manipulating him, asking seemingly harmless questions about Camille under the pretense of curiosity. "What's Camille like at work?" she would ask casually. "She seems so confident. Does she ever talk about her personal life?" Jerry, eager to talk about Camille, shared more than he realized, giving Sasha the information she needed to deepen her suspicions and plan her next move. Sasha's jealousy grew into something darker, fueled by a mix of insecurity and the unresolved pain of her past. She convinced herself that Camille was more than a colleague to Marcus, that she was a threat to the life Sasha had worked so hard to rebuild. And so, she began preparing for what she saw as a necessary act to protect her future. Sasha's outward demeanor remained unchanged. She continued to meet with Camille, gaining her trust and gathering details about her life. At the same time, she began researching methods to ensure that when the time came, her plan would leave no trace. Sasha was methodical, careful, and patient. She believed she could act without raising suspicion, and her confidence in her ability to control the situation only grew. By the time Sasha put her plan into motion, the seeds of tragedy had already been sown. What began as suspicion and jealousy had transformed into a calculated decision. A decision that would change the lives of everyone involved forever. For weeks, Sasha Dune meticulously prepared. Every move was calculated, every interaction with Camille was planned. From the outside, Sasha seemed to be deepening her friendship with Camille, building a bond that others might describe as warm and genuine. But beneath the surface, Sasha's thoughts churned with suspicion and purpose. To her, Camille was no longer just Marcus's secretary. She was an obstacle to the future Sasha had envisioned for herself. It was an ordinary weekday when Sasha decided the time was right. She invited Camille to lunch at an upscale cafe, a gesture Camille interpreted as a kind attempt to strengthen their budding friendship. The atmosphere was lighthearted, with Sasha asking questions about Camille's goals, her family, and her work. Camille spoke freely, completely unaware that the woman sitting across from her had already decided her fate. What Camille didn't notice was the slight tremor in Sasha's hand as she reached into her bag before excusing herself to the restroom. When Sasha returned, she subtly stirred Camille's drink with her spoon, an action so ordinary that no one around them gave it a second thought. The poison, carefully researched and procured by Sasha weeks earlier, was odorless, tasteless, and fast-acting. Camille began feeling unwell shortly after the meal, but brushed it off as fatigue or stress. Sasha, feigning concern, offered to call a car service for her, insisting that Camille take the rest of the day off to rest. Camille left the cafe, grateful for Sasha's kindness, not realizing it was the last time she would ever be seen alive. When Camille didn't show up for work the next day, her colleagues assumed she was unwell. But by the third day, concern began to grow. Jerry Miles, who had always been quietly attentive to Camille's presence, was the first to voice his alarm. "It's not like her," he said, pacing in Marcus's office. "She would have called if something was wrong." Marcus, though concerned, assured Jerry that Camille would likely turn up soon. As the days stretched on, Camille's absence became impossible to ignore. Marcus and Jerry contacted her friends and family, but no one had heard from her. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and visits to her apartment yielded no signs of her presence. Finally, on the 7th day of her disappearance, Camille's family reported her missing to the police, triggering a formal investigation. Local law enforcement launched a comprehensive search for Camille, starting with the places she was last seen. Security footage from the cafe showed Camille leaving in a car, looking visibly unwell. But the trail went cold after that. Investigators combed through her apartment, searching for clues, but found no evidence of foul play. Camille's friends and colleagues were questioned, but no one could provide answers to the growing list of questions surrounding her disappearance. Jerry Miles, distraught over Camille's absence, began his own investigation. He retraced her last known steps, reaching out to anyone who might have seen her. It was during one of these conversations that Jerry learned about her lunch with Sasha on the day she went missing. The information planted a seed of doubt in Jerry's mind, a doubt that would grow as more details came to light. On the 8th day of Camille's disappearance, a group of hikers discovered her body in a wooded area on the outskirts of the city. The scene was grim, her lifeless form partially concealed beneath leaves and debris. Police arrived quickly, cordoning off the area and beginning the painstaking process of collecting evidence. The discovery sent shockwaves through her friends and family, who had clung to hope that Camille might still be alive. An autopsy revealed the cause of death to be poisoning. The toxic substance in her system was rare and difficult to trace, but its presence confirmed one thing: Camille's death was no accident. She had been murdered. Jerry Miles, devastated by the news of Camille's death, couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Sasha knew more than she was letting on. He replayed every interaction he'd had with her in the weeks leading up to Camille's disappearance, noting the casual questions she'd asked about Camille's habits and routines. To Jerry, what once seemed like harmless curiosity now felt like something far more deliberate. Jerry brought his concerns to the police, sharing what he knew about Sasha and Camille's relationship. Investigators, already suspicious of Sasha due to her proximity to Camille, began looking more closely at her actions. They uncovered records of Sasha's purchase of a toxin matching the one found in Camille's system. A receipt from an online vendor, delivered to an address linked to Sasha, provided the first tangible link between her and the crime. As police dug deeper into Sasha's life, they uncovered fragments of a story that painted her in a different light. Colleagues and acquaintances described her as charming and driven, but also intensely private and at times overly possessive. Her past relationships revealed a pattern of mistrust and jealousy, culminating in the traumatic abandonment she had experienced 3 years earlier. To investigators, it became increasingly clear that Sasha's insecurities had played a central role in her actions. Sasha, sensing the growing scrutiny, maintained her composure in public, but began to unravel behind closed doors. Marcus noticed her sleepless nights and distracted demeanor, but when he asked what was wrong, she brushed off his concerns. "Just work stress," she said, forcing a smile. But the walls around her carefully constructed facade were beginning to crumble. Jerry, frustrated by the slow pace of the investigation, began piecing together the evidence on his own. He reviewed emails and messages between Sasha and Camille, noting the subtle tension in Sasha's tone. He also recalled Sasha's insistence on befriending Camille, a relationship that now seemed anything but genuine. Jerry's growing certainty that Sasha was involved pushed him to share his findings with the police, urging them to act before more evidence was lost. Armed with a warrant, Police arrived at Sasha's home one evening, their presence catching her off guard. The search yielded more damning evidence. A vial containing traces of the poison used to kill Camille, hidden in a drawer in Sasha's study. Confronted with the mounting evidence, Sasha maintained her innocence, insisting she had been framed. But her protests rang hollow in the face of the facts. News of Sasha's arrest sent shockwaves through her community. Those who had admired her for her poise and success were now confronted with the possibility that beneath the surface lay a much darker truth. For Marcus, the revelation was a betrayal he could scarcely process. The woman he had planned to marry was now at the center of a murder investigation, her actions tearing apart the life they had built together. Sasha Dune's arrest marked a turning point in the investigation into Camille Alvarez's death. For weeks, the police had worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle of Camille's disappearance and murder. Now, with Sasha in custody, the focus shifted to uncovering the full extent of her involvement and building a case that would stand up in court. But as investigators dug deeper, the story grew more complex, revealing layers of jealousy, manipulation, and a past that had quietly shaped Sasha's actions. The initial search of Sasha's home had provided critical evidence. The vial containing traces of poison matched the substance found in Camille's system, and receipts confirmed Sasha had purchased it weeks before Camille's disappearance. Investigators also recovered a notebook filled with cryptic notes, details about Camille's schedule, places she frequented, and even observations about her interactions with Marcus. To the police, it was clear that Sasha had been watching Camille closely, planning every step of her crime. But physical evidence was only part of the picture. Witness testimonies began to paint a damning portrait of Sasha's behavior leading up to the murder. Colleagues recalled her sudden interest in Camille, noting how she often asked seemingly innocent questions about her habits and background. A barista at the cafe where Sasha and Camille had lunch remembered Sasha acting unusually attentive, hovering over Camille's drink before they left. Each detail added weight to the growing case against her. For Marcus Hall, the revelations about Sasha were devastating. He struggled to reconcile the woman he loved with the person the evidence suggested she was. As police shared the findings of their investigation with him, Marcus was forced to confront difficult questions about their relationship. Had he missed the signs of her growing insecurity? Could he have prevented this tragedy by addressing her fears sooner? Marcus's testimony became a key part of the investigation. He described Sasha's jealousy toward Camille, her subtle but persistent questions about his work, and her insistence on befriending his secretary. "At the time, I thought she just wanted to get to know the people in my life," Marcus said during his interview with investigators. "I never imagined it was something more." His words carried a mix of guilt and disbelief, a reminder of the personal toll the crime had taken on him. Meanwhile, Jerry Miles continued to assist the investigation, providing crucial insights into Sasha's behavior. He shared the conversations he'd had with her about Camille, recalling how she often steered the discussion toward personal details that seemed irrelevant at the time. Jerry's quiet admiration for Camille added a layer of emotional complexity to his involvement. Driven by a sense of justice and perhaps guilt for not acting sooner, he became one of the investigation's most valuable witnesses. Jerry's findings included a series of emails between Sasha and Camille, which investigators had initially dismissed as routine correspondence. Upon closer examination, however, the messages revealed a subtle pattern of manipulation. Sasha's tone was friendly but probing, asking Camille questions about her personal life under the guise of concern. To Jerry, the emails were evidence of Sasha's calculated effort to gain Camille's trust before betraying it. In the interrogation room, Sasha maintained her innocence. Her demeanor was calm, almost defiant, as she denied any involvement in Camille's death. "I had nothing to do with this," she insisted. "Someone is trying to frame me." But as detectives presented the evidence against her, cracks began to show in her composure. When confronted with the receipt for the poison, Sasha faltered, claiming it had been purchased for pest control, a story that quickly fell apart under scrutiny. Detectives also pressed Sasha about the notebook found in her home. The detailed entries about Camille's movements and routines were impossible to explain away. Sasha attempted to dismiss the notes as harmless observations, but the investigators weren't convinced. "You didn't just observe her," one detective said. "You planned every step of this." For the first time, Sasha's confidence wavered, a moment of silence speaking louder than her denials ever could. As the investigation progressed, Sasha's past came under closer examination. Friends and acquaintances from her college years described her as driven and fiercely independent, but noted a pattern of intense relationships marked by jealousy and control. The abandonment she experienced on her wedding day, 3 years earlier, emerged as a pivotal moment in her life, one that seemed to have left her with deep-seated trust issues. Psychologists consulted by the prosecution speculated that Sasha's past trauma had fueled her actions, her jealousy toward Camille rooted in a fear of losing Marcus. For Sasha, this wasn't just about Marcus and Camille's relationship, one expert explained. It was about control, about ensuring that she didn't experience the same betrayal she had in the past. While these insights provided context, they did little to absolve Sasha of responsibility for her actions. Investigators uncovered one last piece of evidence that sealed Sasha's fate: a series of internet searches conducted on her personal computer. The search history included phrases like undetectable poisons, how to erase traces of toxins, and staging a disappearance. To the prosecution, this was the smoking gun, a clear indication that Sasha's actions were premeditated. With the evidence firmly in place, the district attorney's office prepared to bring charges against Sasha, including first-degree murder and premeditated poisoning. The case was airtight, leaving little room for doubt about her guilt. But for those who knew Sasha, the question remained: how could someone so seemingly composed and successful commit such a calculated act of betrayal? The arrest and subsequent revelations about Sasha Dune sent shockwaves through her community. Friends, colleagues, and neighbors struggled to reconcile the person they thought they knew with the evidence against her. For Marcus, the betrayal was deeply personal, a shattering of trust that left him questioning everything about their relationship. And for Jerry, the loss of Camille was a wound that would take years to heal. Even as the community began to process the truth, the story was far from over. Sasha's trial loomed on the horizon, promising to reveal even more about her motives and the events that led to Camille's tragic death. The stage was set for a legal battle that would test the limits of justice and bring closure to those left in the wake of Sasha's actions. Sasha Dune's trial was one of the most anticipated courtroom dramas of the year. The case had captivated public attention, a chilling tale of jealousy, manipulation, and betrayal that seemed pulled from the pages of fiction. But for those involved, Camille Alvarez's family, Marcus Hall, and Jerry Miles, this was no story. It was their reality, one shaped by loss, pain, and the search for justice. As the trial began, all eyes turned to the courtroom, where the truth behind Sasha's actions would finally be laid bare. The prosecution wasted no time presenting its evidence, methodically laying out the events leading up to Camille's disappearance and death. They opened with the autopsy report, which confirmed poisoning as the cause of death. The rare toxin found in Camille's system was traced back to a vial recovered from Sasha's home, a damning piece of evidence that formed the foundation of the case. Next came the testimony of investigators who had uncovered Sasha's meticulous planning. They presented her notebook detailing Camille's daily routines and movements, as well as her search history, which included terms like how to poison someone without detection and symptoms of toxin exposure. To the jury, these details painted a picture of premeditation, leaving little doubt about Sasha's intent. The prosecution also called Jerry Miles to the stand. Jerry recounted his interactions with Sasha in the weeks leading up to Camille's death, highlighting her probing questions about Camille's life and her calculated efforts to gather information. His testimony was calm and measured, but his voice carried the weight of personal loss. "She didn't just take Camille's life," Jerry said. "She took away someone who brought light into every room she entered." Sasha's defense team faced an uphill battle. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and her actions in the months leading up to the crime left little room for interpretation. Still, her attorneys attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's narrative, arguing that the case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence. The defense focused on Sasha's mental state, introducing psychologists who testified about the lasting impact of her past trauma. They described her as a woman deeply scarred by her abandonment on her wedding day, someone whose fear of betrayal had shaped her actions in ways she didn't fully understand. This was a crime of emotion, not calculation, one expert claimed. Sasha's actions were driven by a fear of losing the life she had worked so hard to rebuild. Sasha herself took the stand, her demeanor calm but visibly strained. She admitted to feeling jealous of Camille, but denied planning her death. "I was insecure, yes," Sasha said, her voice trembling. "But I would never hurt anyone. I don't know how this happened." Her denials, however, were undermined by the mountain of evidence against her, and the prosecution quickly dismantled her claims during cross-examination. One of the most emotional moments of the trial came when Marcus Hall took the stand. He spoke about his relationship with Sasha, their plans for the future, and the subtle changes he noticed in her behavior leading up to Camille's death. "I thought I knew her," Marcus said, his voice heavy with emotion. "But the woman I loved and the person who did this, they feel like two different people." His testimony highlighted the personal toll of Sasha's actions, a reminder that her crime had shattered more than one life. After weeks of testimony and evidence, the case was handed over to the jury. Their task was to determine whether Sasha Dune was guilty of first-degree murder, a charge that required proof of premeditation. The deliberations were tense, with jurors weighing the psychological context of Sasha's actions against the undeniable evidence of her planning. Ultimately, the facts spoke louder than the defense's attempts to humanize her. On the fourth day of deliberations, the jury returned with their verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. Sasha Dune showed little reaction as the decision was read, her expression a mask of resignation. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole, citing the premeditated nature of her crime and the devastating impact on those left behind. For Camille's family, the verdict brought a measure of closure. Her mother, speaking to reporters outside the courthouse, said, "Justice has been served, but it doesn't bring my daughter back. We'll never forget her, and we'll honor her memory by fighting for others who have suffered from senseless violence." While the trial provided answers, it also left lingering questions about the forces that drove Sasha to commit such a heinous act. Her story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked jealousy and the lasting scars of unresolved trauma. For those who had admired Sasha as a successful, composed woman, her downfall was a stark reminder of how easily appearances can deceive. The case left a lasting mark on the community, sparking conversations about mental health, trust, and the complexities of human relationships. Local organizations began offering workshops on emotional well-being and conflict resolution, hoping to prevent similar tragedies in the future. For Marcus and Jerry, the road to healing was long, but both men were determined to honor Camille's memory by moving forward with purpose and compassion. As the courtroom emptied and the dust began to settle, the story of Sasha Dune and Camille Alvarez remained etched in the hearts and minds of everyone it touched. It was a story of love turned to obsession, of a life cut tragically short, and of the resilience of those left to pick up the pieces. And though the case had come to an end, its lessons would echo for years to come. The trial of Sasha Dune may have brought justice for Camille Alvarez, but for those left behind, the end of the courtroom battle was only the beginning of their journey toward healing. The ripple effects of Sasha's crime extended far beyond the courtroom, touching the lives of her fiancé, her friends, and an entire community that had once seen her as a symbol of success. Now, they were left to grapple with the aftermath of her actions and the lessons they carried. For Marcus Hall, the revelations about Sasha's actions shattered the foundation of the life he had built. The woman he had planned to marry someone he believed he knew deeply, had committed an unthinkable crime. Marcus was left with the haunting question of how he had missed the signs of Sasha's jealousy and unraveling mental state. "I trusted her completely," he said in an interview months after the trial. But trust can blind you to things you don't want to see. Marcus threw himself into his work as a way to cope, but he also sought support from close friends and a therapist, determined not to let the tragedy define him. Over time, he began to rebuild, finding solace in helping others and dedicating his time to causes that honored Camille's memory. "I can't change what happened," he said, "but I can make sure her light isn't forgotten." Jerry Miles, whose quiet admiration for Camille had driven him to uncover the truth, emerged as a key voice for justice and advocacy. He became involved with organizations supporting victims of violent crime, using his experience to raise awareness about the dangers of unchecked jealousy and emotional manipulation. Camille deserved so much more, Jerry said during a public event. "If sharing her story can save even one life, then her legacy will continue." Despite his public advocacy, Jerry admitted that the loss of Camille was something he would carry with him forever. He often visited the site where her body was found, leaving flowers and taking a moment to reflect. For Jerry, the pain of losing Camille was a reminder of the importance of cherishing the people we hold dear and speaking up when something doesn't feel right. Sasha's crime and the trial that followed became a catalyst for change in the community. Local organizations began hosting workshops on emotional well-being and healthy relationships, addressing issues like jealousy, trust, and conflict resolution. Schools introduced programs aimed at teaching young people how to process emotions constructively, emphasizing the importance of seeking help when dealing with personal struggles. The case also sparked conversations about mental health, particularly the need for better access to resources for individuals coping with trauma. Sasha's story, while tragic, highlighted the consequences of ignoring emotional wounds and the importance of addressing unresolved pain before it festers. Sasha Dune began serving her life sentence in the state's prison, her days marked by routine and reflection. She became an enigma to those around her, maintaining her composure but offering little insight into her thoughts. In rare moments, she expressed regret, though it was unclear whether her remorse was for her actions or for the life she had lost as a result. Journalists who interviewed Sasha reported that she spoke of her past with a mix of bitterness and longing. "I didn't think it would end like this," she said in one interview. "I wanted to protect what was mine, but I lost everything." For Sasha, prison became a place of solitude, a far cry from the vibrant life she had once led. Her story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the destructive power of jealousy and the price of unresolved trauma. Camille Alvarez's legacy lived on through those who loved her. Her family established a foundation in her name, dedicated to supporting young professionals and promoting emotional wellness. The Foundation's mission was to ensure that Camille's vibrant spirit and dedication to others would continue to inspire future generations. At her memorial service, friends and colleagues shared stories of Camille's kindness, her unwavering optimism, and the way she brought people together. "She had a way of making you feel seen," one friend said. "Even in the smallest moments, Camille's warmth could brighten your day." For those who knew her, remembering Camille became a way to heal and to honor the life she had lived. The story of Sasha Dune and Camille Alvarez is one that lingers long after the courtroom doors close. It is a story of love and ambition, of suspicion and betrayal, and of the devastating consequences of unaddressed pain. For Marcus, Jerry, and the Alvarez family, the road to healing has been long and difficult, but their resilience has become a testament to the power of love and remembrance. As the community moves forward, the lessons of this tragedy remain clear. Emotional wounds must be addressed, and trust must be nurtured with care. Sasha's story serves as a reminder that unresolved insecurities can lead to devastating choices, while Camille's memory inspires a legacy of hope and kindness. If you or someone you know is struggling with feelings of jealousy, insecurity, or unresolved trauma, there is help available. Seeking support is not a sign of weakness, but a step toward healing. Remember, there's always a way forward, no matter how difficult the path may seem. Thank you for watching. Camille's story reminds us to cherish the people in our lives and to address the emotions we often keep hidden. Together, we can create a world where such tragedies are not repeated. Help us keep Camille's memory alive. Like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth true crime documentaries, and join the fight to ensure that no other child suffers in silence. See you in our next video, but until then, stay out of crime.